Hi Kiwi, so I wanted to show you the end of one run where I really brought out the full potential of the mysterious flying stars. Now, I will point out my artifact damage, that's why I'm paused here, is at 41%, which is kind of hard to come by, but I was running the pagoda artifact, which gets a 0.1% increase every time you get a kill with it, and I did a little farming with it. Honestly, not as strong as I hoped it would be, but I just want to give you the context of why I have what we have going on here, and it's fully upgraded, so that's where when it's fully upgraded it's going to bring palms raining down from the sky, so that'll explain what you're about to see. But I just wanted you to see what this build looks like at its full potential before we go into the final run of our playthrough. So effectively the things to notice are, one, I have a bunch of on hits between wind, lightning, and fire passives. The flying Buddha bombs just randomly drop everywhere and squish the enemies. Whenever my energy bar goes from a state of not being full to being full, whether it's a difference of 1 or 100% energy, all enemies in the area get frozen. But look at my energy gain. That is the true strength of this build. Every auto attack fills up almost a full bar of the energy gauge. The rate at which you gain energy basically guarantees that if you have the shield artifact, you are always using it. You never have a moment where you're not shielded. But I have 2 fully upgraded artifacts which consume somewhere in the realm of 4 bars of energy, and I have no issue keeping them both up at all times. One is the Buddha's Palm that you're seeing, the other one is Divine Teleportation, which gives me movement speed, and attack damage based on movement speed. It also passively increases my damage based on how much distance I've traveled, and since I'm constantly dodging and moving around, it scales pretty fast. So those are the two of the strongest facets of this build, but really what makes this weapon so strong has to be the energy game. So as long as you're maintaining that energy, you have your artifacts at the ready and you can use them non-stop. It's kind of crazy. But on top of that, just the potential damage output from this on its basic attack build is, aside from stacking all the elements, so the wind blades, the storms, the chain lightning, the flame passive, the potential for freeze and ice spike, all of which do damage or disable the enemy, it's simply just a matter of my DPS with a little bit of attack speed just goes up so much, and because of one of the technique manuals that makes it so you spawn more orbs every time you use your basic attack, you'll see that eventually I get just a full, sometimes I just get a full ring of orbs around me, and every single one of those orbs is rotating and dealing damage as long as I'm within range of the enemy to hit them with that, and that's even more damage. Then I get a technique manual that changes it from the ability where they spread out and spin faster to instead they shoot a little laser beam, and especially for single target damage, it just drains HP bars. So this build, for every reason in terms of both offense and defense, it's definitely not the strongest in terms of offense, but the sheer utility of defensive options it gives, because you're ranged against a primarily melee group of melee-based enemies. Like you can see, I easily outrange him, and he can't even touch me. And I'm just, and it because each orb hits separately, it's generating a ridiculous amount of energy, but it's also doing multiple hits of damage to every enemy, applying passives with each hit, because the orbs, I believe each outward and inward hit, because they boomerang, is treated as a separate hit. Here you can see they're shooting their lasers, and I have so many orbs, and it's shredding HP bars. But maybe a little bit of an epilepsy warning here. There is a lot going on the screen right now, and I only had, I think, maybe like 20% crit rate, but it's I'm critting a lot. And the crits don't do a lot of damage on their own individual hits, but because there are so many hits, it just adds up so ridiculously fast. But again, because this is a ranged build, it's so easy to kite the pardon me. It's so easy to kite the melee enemies and just stay safe. And nothing can hit me, because if they hit me with a projectile or a stray melee swipe, my shield is almost guaranteed to be back up immediately because I have the energy. So that is the full potential of this build, and you'll see on the next run I'm still using this build. It's just because I'm running maximum heat, I don't get lucky with all of the drops that I did on this one. I deliberately ran this run so that I could choose all of my options and see this build's full potential, because I felt like I got a sense that this would be the build that would win me maximum heat, and it sure did. Which you'll see soon. Spoilers, I suppose, but we're about the journey, not just the destination on this playthrough, aren't we? Maybe. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. But yeah. Not my, hands down, not my, haha, hands down, get it? But, not my fastest Erlong Shen by a country mile, but I don't even think he hurts me once in this entire fight, because how could he? He has no chance of ever dealing damage. Realistically, I should have been using my artifacts even more, because my energy game is just so off the walls. Like, sure, I get hit, but the shield just makes it so I never take a single hit of HP. And the funny thing about this build is I had a bunch of passives that were like, on auto attack or on basic attack, have a % chance of healing, and because I attack so fast, I was at full HP the entire run. Unambiguously, Mysterious Flying Stars, the strongest in terms of defense for any build in this game. But with all that said, we've got one more run to go, and then we'll be moving on to Hades, so look forward to that. Kiwi, I'll see you in the next clip. Hi Kiwi! Alright, we're back with another episode of Lotus Lantern, and I just wanted to show you that I played a couple rounds off screen and have bought out most of the skill tree at this point. Haven't really delved into what artifacts I want to buy. I feel like some of the latter ones are pretty strong, but they're also, their descriptions are a degree of unwieldy, so I haven't really bought into them. But what we are going to do today is we're going to try out one round of Endless Mode, which, again, I have tried a little bit off screen, and I've discovered that I was completely wrong about the Mysterious Flying Stars. They are objectively the strongest weapon in the game, at least for how I play it. And I'm going to prove it by doing this. As you can see, I already kind of upgraded it. I already upgraded it to its max. Let's see. Touch of Incineration, normal attack generates flame. Technique skill causes flame, fire meteor, or summon a fire spirit when enemies die. Those fire spirits might actually be very useful, because I have an idea for what I want on my auto attack right now. So let's go with Pyro Surge and get Fire Spirits to fight for us so I can keep focusing on dodging. But observe this. Like, I've discovered that it one-shots enemies at the very start of the game. So that alone makes it very strong, because its early game potential is very strong. But you'll see that this build scales out of control if I get the right drops, mind you. I don't get to choose. I don't get a say on what I'm going to roll here, but let's see. After hitting enemies with basic attacks, there's a chance to gain a temporary spear. I mean, this is actually what we want right off the bat. And I'm going to roll for a lightning passive and hope that I get a high tier chain lightning on the first hit. Now, my record with this build, if you watched my previous attempts, I think the furthest I got, or actually I don't think I recorded it, but the furthest I got with any of the melee weapons in this mode was about wave 6. Because the enemies here scale very quickly in terms of attack speed and damage. When I used this, I got to wave, I think, 29. Which should show you how much stronger this build has the potential to be. Granted, I did get this shield that prevents you from taking damage. I got everything I could have wanted in that run, frankly. I got the dragon pillars and got it fully upgraded, and that was just wiping things out while I focus on dodging towards the end of the run. But the special attack on this weapon just does so much damage, and it doesn't. And I'm really only caring about that in the early game, because in the late game I actually use the auto attack more, or the basic attack more, and you'll see why. It just gets so strong very quickly. Let's see. I don't want to use that. I don't want that just yet, so we'll take the normal attack speed up, and let's roll for a Thunder passive. I mean, I got what I wanted, but it's the weakest version of it, but I guess we'll take it, because it's actually only about a 3 damage difference. That 3 damage might matter, though. But, like, I can, my active ability is going to one-shot things for now, but also for later, too. And I genuinely think I can beat maximum heat with this build, because I did try honestly just shy of maximum heat. The only passives I didn't have active were, I believe, I kept the shop affordable, and I kept, I didn't turn up the enemy attack speed either. Let's see, when a technique skill is released, when a character is hit, when an enemy's died. I think I'll take when enemies die for now. We'll stack some passives on enemy death. Pardon me, had to sneeze. But the trick about this challenge mode is effectively, well, there are a couple things. One, the enemy damage, attack speed, and attack rate, frankly, or what am I saying? The enemy damage, attack speed, and difficulty of enemies scales with how far in you go. And by wave 29, a single enemy was hitting me for about 170 damage, which is more than my current HP bar. So, mind you, it gets very difficult very quickly. So, I'm not going to promise that I make it as far as I did in the off-screen run, but trust me when I say it, I genuinely believe this weapon can get me pretty far in this mode, but also just the base mode as well. So, as you can see, there's a bar at the top of the screen that lists the resources underneath it in the bottom, like just down and to the left of that bar, and then the enemies killed. And on top of that, the wave I'm on, and every time that bar fills, I get a free technique manual or Nua's Blessing or engraving. For every fire elemental blessing owned, 1% more damage. This is what I'm looking for. Or actually, I was looking for flaming, but Ice Spike might be better because I think it does AoE. What do I want to do? I think I'm going to stick with burning because that was doing so well last time. And we'll take another Thunder Blessing. Electrical Blade, when artifact hits, spawn Chain Lightning when characters hit. I think we'll go with that. We'll go with the artifact effect. Now I'm going to start rolling for an artifact because I want to try and get the shield. Things are going to get strong very quickly now. So, in the melee belts when I was running this, the biggest challenge were these dasher guys because they dash so incredibly fast once their attack speed scales that it's almost impossible to react to them. You just have to know that the second they're within your range, they're going to dash attack you. And the other issue is this mini-boss. Like, they start spawning a mini-boss at the second wave, but you eventually get kind of a used to it. You have to get your dodge pattern on their timing rather than what you want it to be, and then you can dodge them pretty reliably. But the nice thing about this build is not only can I stop an attack, but my orbs are going to spin and do damage for me as well. Anyway, the way I get resources to buy these upgrades is I have to get kills, which ultimately boils down to the biggest reason why this build is so much stronger than any of the other options. And that is because the only way you're going to upgrade your character, for the most part, is if you kill things. And you're too busy. The melee builds just... It's so easy to get hit because these dash guys have, like, as their attack speed scales, they have virtually no wind-up. And it's just, if they saw you, you know you need to dodge. But, like, see this? I don't even have to attack. I focus on dodging and stay in a rough proximity to them so that I can have my spinning orbs do damage. And thankfully I am healed between waves. Let's see. I want... Spirit Orb enhances itself. Let's go ahead and do this one. And there's our first artifact. We did not get the shield. Let's see. I think we'll take Profound Frost Orb because that goes well with our build and it doesn't interfere with the God Sigil that we need for our A button. I believe that's a Y button. Actually, you know what? I will have to trade this out because I want to get the Dragon Fire, and that takes the spot. So maybe that was a mistake for what I took, but it'll be good for now because we can use these orbs offensively. But effectively, what this boils down to is a whole lot of dodging and kiting, and eventually. And every now and again, if I think it's safe, which usually isn't, admittedly, the mini-boss from the first world is just so obnoxious here, because they usually spawn two of them. See, yeah, there are two here, and they don't leave you alone. They never stop attacking, and especially once their attack rate goes up. It's just really obnoxious to deal with them reliably. As you can see, I'm stacking HP because, realistically speaking, that's what I need. Iron Fan is probably also a very decent option. But I think we'll just take this for now. Like I said, we're going to keep rolling for the shield because if you haven't gotten the sense of it by now, the shield is just absolutely broken in this game. Unquestionably broken. But as you can see, we are now spawning a floor boss. And this is, that tiger monster was honestly the thing that killed me in my previous run. Because, again, there were 2 of them. Their attack speed was so insane. And they can just, like, basically teleport to you with how fast their jump attack is. And then on top of that, they did 100 to 200 damage per hit. So I died. The second those guys spawned on the floor, the run was pretty much over for me. And as you can see, the run is about to be over now because I am taking way more damage than I would have liked. So I'm going to focus on dodging rather than getting the kills here. There we go, we survived. And that'll heal us up. No artifact on this round, so I'm just going to skip my power-ups. I'm going to save my resources because if you haven't noticed, the cost of everything is going up over time. Sometimes it gets a little buggy. Sometimes I have to try and wait for it to load a couple times. Alright, so we've officially made it onto floor 2 enemies, which is cool. I will notice that something seems to be bugged again. Of course. I have unlocked a passive from the skill tree that makes it so when I use my technique for the first time in a room, the cooldown of my technique should have instantly reset. And that does not appear to be the case here. So my only assumption is something is bugged, or I think it's working some of the time, but it's definitely not every time. I can't use it 2 times in a row. That's on every floor, it seems, or every room, wave, whatever you want to call it. This looks like a nice group of things just bunched up together for some reason. So you're gonna find very quickly that the most significant difficulty to this challenge, aside from the mini-bosses spawning with maximum attack speed, is just the projectile enemies are horrendously obnoxious to deal with because, I mean, you can already see it's not that bad yet, but these guys are basically filling the rooms with projectiles. The interesting thing is there are certain weapons that just delete projectiles when a certain technique manual is obtained, which sounds ridiculously broken for this, but I still think they fall off because most of the builds in this game are melee based. Actually, is that true? I feel like actually it's fairly balanced between melee and ranged, honestly, because you've got, what is it called? You've got the sword, and then the axe. Oh, I think I died. I think I just died there, but my resurrection passed. Yep, I definitely died there. Okay. See, the mini-bosses are just relentless, I swear. For every lightning element, attack speed, with each bounce of chain lightning. Oh, we can stack that, can we? Alright, we'll take that. And then, I'm tempted by the Thunder Blessing, and we've got a lot of resources, so let's do it. Electric Dash, when a stack Thunder Breath. Volume of Thunder Orders increased by 20%. Characters hit by an... We'll do Thunder Breath. The passive I'm looking for on Thunder is actually when I first hit an enemy. Artifact skill deals. There it is. That's what we want. Well, that's not exactly what we want. There's one that is the first time you hit an enemy, it deals Thunder Breath damage, but it just, that ability scales so much. But Thunder Breath does a lot of damage. It scales out of control if you can get it early. Unfortunately, I didn't. I think that's what carried the run. What carried the run was a combination of, I got the, Heavenly Fire Pillars upgraded very quickly, and then I also got... Okay, I just got hit a whole lot. I think I got stuck in a wall. But the Heavenly Fire Pillar was just destroying everything while I focus on dodging and getting a hit in here or there. Really, what I'm trying to do is get a stacks of flaming on all of them and then focus on dodging. Unfortunately, it looks like this is probably where the run is going to end, as I am desperately fighting for my life here. Yeah, there it is. See, those rabbit bosses are just so hard to dodge. So I didn't get nearly as far as I did last time, but I think at the very least you've seen what endless mode is. Apparently, it's a work in progress, actually. But it's a fun mode. I actually quite like it. It'll be good for those moments when I just want to turn my brain off and have fun. But with all that said, we're going to go ahead and do our maximum heat run and probably put this game to rest afterwards. Anyway, you can see this is what I did in my previous run. The only things I were missing were the shot price, the enemy attack speed, the recovery effect reduction wasn't maxed out, armor was or not armor, and then option decreases. But we're gonna go ahead and max everything out, and we're gonna see what happens. All right, so 60% reduction in healing items. I'll have to be mindful of that, and I will have to sometimes prioritize divine or elemental spirits so that I can get more HP, because I imagine a single hit is going to destroy me. But it turns out this plays reminiscent of the bow in Hades. I just need to prioritize kiting enemies and staying a distance and being mindful of projectiles. Alright, unfortunately we did not get a very good starting blessing, but we'll see where this takes us. We will definitely, hopefully, get something good soon. We need something to really pop off the run early, and of course we need the shield as soon as possible. That's really what's going to make or break this run. In terms of topics to discuss today, honestly, I couldn't feel any... There wasn't anything I felt immediately like, oh, I want to talk about this. So I think I'm going to kind of stick to the topics I've been talking about previously, where in the last couple episodes I talked about manhwa. And I openly know that this is obviously a Chinese origin sort of game. This is Chinese mythology. This is Chinese language. Me talking about manhwa, which is a Korean in origin... Oh, wow, that's a really nice lightning chain lightning passive drop. Awesome. Okay. That makes up for the other drop we got. Alright, and we're gonna go for a Nua's Blessing to start. Anyway, I know I was talking a lot about Korean comics, comics of Korean origin, webtoons, manhwa, which I believe the manhwa manga equivalent in China is also called manhwa, mind you. But no, I'm openly aware that I'm going to be talking... I was talking about Korean origin. Oh, that's perfect. Now I have increased crit damage against anything I hit with my technique. That's really good. Anyway, focusing. I'm going to continue talking about things that are Korean in origin, because admittedly, really, the only Chinese in origin stories that I know are a couple webtoon-esque manhwa, but I can't name drop them because it's been so long since I read them. And then beyond that, it would likely be... Alright, I'm just going to use this because they outrange me, unfortunately. Their projectiles travel an infinite amount of distance, and mine do not. Anyway, but and I guess Link Click would be one that I could think of, but I've only seen 2 episodes of Link Click, so that would be a very superficial... Oh, you know what? You know what's something... Oh, really? No way. Can I just not accept it? I think yeah, okay, good. I did not want to give up that lightning blessing. It was too strong. We're honestly getting really unlucky at the start of this run. We'll see where it goes, but I did not want to give up chain lightning with the highest grade of chain lightning for the build I want to run. That would have kind of killed the run. Like, getting a freeze auto attack is fine. It actually is really nice, but I learned very quickly in the wave-based mode that the freeze auto attack, you're too busy trying to survive, and you don't have enough time to damage things to really reliably freeze them. So in terms of damage, chain lightning with the flame passive on it is way better. Also, this guy can what is it, 6-shot me, which is great. Their damage up is noticeable, that's for sure. So I'm just gonna try and keep my distance, and if he dashes, we run away. It would be cool if that went the correct direction. Whatever. Let's focus on taking out the projectiles. And now I can range this guy from a safe distance. Realistically, I just chose the wrong way to dodge. I dodged in a linear path and got hit for it. Anyway. Really, just... I have so many passives that are supposed to increase the rarity of these skills, and I am not getting them at all. Oh well. Let's go for the technique manual and hope we get at least something there. But anyway, so yeah, so I really, admittedly, don't have a lot of experience with Chinese media, but I guess before we go into what I was actually going to talk about were some Korean in origin games, I do have one Chinese anime that I'm very distinctly aware of that I quite liked. And if it's called something other than anime, forgive me, I don't know the term, so I'm going to call it anime, whether that is the correct term or not. I know there's a very divisive conversation about what counts as anime and what doesn't, depending on your purview, but for me, my purview is if it has a certain style, I'm going to call it anime. I don't care about its point of origin, I don't care about its target audience. To me, anime is an aesthetic and a design choice, and if you want me to call it anime inspired in the future, so be it. But to me, Avatar: The Last Airbender is anime. Like, it wears its inspiration on its sleeves, and that's all I'm going to say about that. Normal attacks no longer require consuming the spirit orbs. Perfect. That's actually very useful for us, because eventually we're going to want to be able to drop our spirit orbs on the ground and forget about them, and you can't use your auto attacks if that's happening normally. Ouch. Alright. So this boss isn't terribly difficult. I just have to focus on timing my dodges appropriately and getting damage in where I can, because it teleports a lot. Anyway, so I forget the exact name of the show, but it was something equivalent to... Oh gosh. I think it was something along the lines of the herbivorous demon or dragon just wants to live a quiet life and is not the demon lord, or that's kind of the premise. It was on Crunchyroll, but basically the story is about a herbivorous dragon who for some reason people believe is this great evil, like not the demon lord, but just this incredibly evil I think they call him like the great malevolent dragon. They believe him to be this really evil creature that will bring about the end of the world if not appeased. And so the story starts by him getting an offering from the local village in the form of a young girl to be given as sacrifice to him to appease his anger and his wrath and keep the village in his favor. And he's like, I have nothing I want to do with you. I just want to live a quiet life, eat my leaves, and sleep in my cave. And this girl who he's sacrificed to is just kind of insane and is probably actually the evil dragon in reality, because she is absurdly strong and can seem to transform into, like, at least partially into a dragon. But basically she constantly misassumes what the entire premise of the show is just misunderstanding after misunderstanding. And this dragon is just like, I just want to live peacefully, let me do my thing. And the main character, or the female lead character, is just constantly trying to help the dragon commit evil atrocities, and he's just trying to, like, calm her down and be like, wait, kid, please stop. I don't want any of this. Stop. We're taking the HP because we're hurting. Oh, good, an HP recovery. And we're hurting. That boss fight did not go so well, but the run is still alive, oddly enough. And we'll take the engraving and hope for something good. What I need on this run as soon as possible to get it to pop off is the shield. Elemental damage, refresh points. I don't know. I feel like this is... The crazy thing about this build is how fast you generate energy, so I don't think it's worth taking this. So I'll just take the free rerolls for now, I guess. Draw or Nua's Blessing. Let's go for the Blessing and hope that I actually get something that's worth it. But this run is starting off really weak. If it does fail, what I probably will do is I'm not even going to include this in the footage, and I'll just try and record another one. Because I very much do intend this episode to be the last episode of Lotus Lantern. I think I've exhausted everything that the game has to offer. And honestly, this game has been a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. It wears its inspiration on its sleeves, but it wears it well. It really does. Like, it's clearly kind of in... I wouldn't call it an early access, but it's the endless mode was apparently not even in the base game. They added it in because people kept asking for more, and I don't blame them. I wanted to keep going with the game, and I found a way to keep going with it by trying out the other builds and going on the higher heats, which added some degree of replayability. But I've definitely seen the majority of what this game has to offer now, aside from, like, fully upgrading the weapons, which I don't think I'm going to do. There aren't enough builds that really entice me to really go that far out of my way to explore. The way Hades did, Hades' builds were just so crazy and fun. Not that this one isn't. I mean, you've seen, there have been a couple runs that have just scaled out of control. Would you stop trying to make me give up my passive? Oh my god. Okay. Oh my goodness. It really wants me to give up normal attacks. Like, I'm not getting anything out of these blessing rooms. Sheesh. Alright, another technique manual will hopefully set us forward, but not having... I need the shield artifact to survive the first boss, I'm pretty sure. that this is not going to go well if I don't have the shield passive. So we'll see. We will see. But I have a feeling the run is about to end. We will try, though. We will try our darndest. Anyway, so what else can I say? So the story I was telling you is really, it's just fun. The characters bounce off of each other in a very, like, straight man, comedy, chaos character way. The dragon is obviously the straight man. He just wants to eat his meals and live in peace, and he's just not allowed because everyone thinks he is this great evil. Even the bad guys think he is the great dragon, but he's completely powerless and helpless to everything around him, and it's just this girl who's absurdly strong, who saves the day and then claims it was the great dragon, the malevolent dragon's powers that carried the situation. It's a very fun dynamic. Again, I forget the exact name, but probably if you just search for dragons in Crunchyroll, you'll find the show. And I have to say, I think it was the opening and ending theme songs were both nice, but I think it was the ending theme song. It's just so incredibly soothing that I mean, it has the, based on the animation accompanying it, it feels like a lullaby, and I really like it. It's one of my favorite ending songs out there, at least especially from the season that I was watching. It was probably my favorite. But it's nothing groundbreaking, but it's very cute, and it got me to laugh a fair few times. So I think if I'm going by that metric alone, it's definitely worth a recommendation if you want something not super high stakes, kind of funny, and cute, and you're looking for something that is Chinese animation, I guess, because it does seem like Crunchyroll is doing a really cool job of starting to bring in more Chinese and Korean animations, or it may not specifically be Crunchyroll, but my options are limited to Crunchyroll and Netflix. And I mean, if it's not Crunchyroll, streaming service jail is kind of very real. Netflix to a lesser extent. Honestly, Netflix has been kind of doing a decent job, but oh my goodness, anything that goes on Disney is doomed to die, sadly. Like, there are so many good anime that have just been lost to obscurity because they are locked into Disney jail. Alright, shield? Nope. Well, movement speed and attack speed actually work very well with this build, because I'm dodging so much and trying to just get one attack off as I dodge. So it's not great. I'm still probably going to lose here, and I have to take the HP recovery because, I mean, I need to survive at least 2 hits, right? But, alright, let's talk to Senior Sister, because I'm sure she has something to say. Cool. Thanks, Senior Sister. Bye. And I did confirm, it's after the 3rd clear, you basically have beaten the game, so there's not much to show for it. Big Tire, I'm not here for idle talk with you. Hand over. What am I doing? I don't need to talk to you. Let's just try and get as much damage as I can. Like, the moves that are the scariest are his spinning attack, where he chases after you while spinning. So on the bright side, compared to the last time I took this guy on, I have the ability to... 1 second. I have the ability to kill his mobs, which is what was my last build was severely lacking. But I have pretty solid AoE with this ability, so I don't have to worry about killing his mobs too hard. Or, whoa! I'm gonna go ahead and drop my mirror and try and get that to do some damage. Whoop. Okay, maybe this is more doable than I gave it credit, but I think we'll see once we get to his 2nd phase, which is the same as his first, just faster. Which is how this tends to work. Really, it's the Hydra that's going to kill me if I'm not careful. And I'll keep using my mirror since that'll allow me to attack him from a distance. Oh dear, yeah, he chunks you if he catches you with his dash attack. I gotta be careful. Dash attacks in general seem to be my bane somehow. Like, you'd think I could dodge them, but I can't. Whoop! Ooh. Spooky. Wah! Almost dodged into that. Yeah. I think this boss is doable so long as I focus on killing his minions as well in passing, and using that attack as my opportunity to... Like, normally what I try to do is stay in melee distance, because it makes it very easy to dodge his Thunder Slash, because I can just... I can just get behind him, and it's very easy to dodge it if you're behind him. Honestly, most of his attacks miss if you're behind him, but as you can see, that jump, that leaping slash just comes out so fast. It looks like his spinning slash isn't a problem so long as I'm out of the way for it. And it just means I have to pay very close attention to when he is using his... Oop. We've almost got him. I just have to pay very close attention to when he's using his triple attack, and there we go. His slash and then jump slash attack is the one I had to pay attention to. Alright, we're going to take max HP because we need survivability more than anything until we get our shield, and even after we get our shield, frankly, but this build becomes most objectively broken once you have the shield, because every hit on an enemy is something that spawns... Oh, let's see what we got here. Hopefully the flame passive, lightning element attack speed, there we are, excellent. Yeah, that'll pretty substantially boost our damage. And we'll go for a Destiny Plate Bead for lack of a better option. But look how fast my energy generated. I'm full bar from 2 auto attacks. So basically, there's never a time when I'm not using an artifact with this build once I have things stacked up. It's just so absurdly strong at generating energy. And that's really what made this build so broken, is just you're always full energy, which means you can always have your shield up if you're mashing the artifact. The only problem is you need to attack as well and dodge. So it's not perfect, but it scales very quickly. And if you just get a couple on hits, you can focus on surviving and outlasting your enemies and just tanking hits, because all you need is one or two auto attacks to have enough energy to cast your strongest artifacts, and you only need like 1 to be able to cast your shield. So it does work. It works very well, very quickly. Alright, what do we get? Artifact. I think we're going to go for the upon room passage get HP. I don't expect that I'll be giving up this passive, so I'll use that for now. Alright, let's take another roll for the shield. But see, I'm still wiping out swaths of enemies with my active skill. Anyway, so I think I've rambled enough on random topics. Let's talk about the Korean games that I've played. So pretty much all of the games that I've played that are originating from Korea, I don't know where Terra originated from, so I'll save that for another day. I don't actually terribly remember Terra anyway. I ran a mage. I remember that. I think I was like an elven mage character. I enjoyed the game while it was live. Unfortunately, I do believe that game got closed down after a while, which stinks because I think it had a lot going for it. It was a very pretty game, and it's standard MMO fare in terms of gameplay, I would say. Not that I've played a lot of MMOs. I've played like my core 2 and then dibbled into other ones, but still, it didn't seem like a game that was dying, which is a shame because I did play it with some friends for a little while. But probably the Korean MMO that I've played the most, Kiwi, I'm sure you all are already aware, is Dungeon Fighter Online, or Dungeon and Fighter in the Korean localization. There it is. We've got the barrier, and that gives us our best fighting chance at still clearing this. Granted, I am at 37 HP, so not the best situation, but we'll make this work. We will make this work. But so Dungeon Fighter, if you're not familiar with it, it's not very well it's not terribly popular in the West, but it is one of the largest. I think there were several years where it was the largest grossing MMO in the world, particularly in the Eastern world. It is a 2D side-scrolling beat-em-up action sort of game, and I probably will do some episodes of it on the channel at some point. Admittedly, what I want to do is create a new character and kind of do like what I've been doing with A Space for the Unbound, where I just voice all the characters, or like read all the quest dialogue and voice the characters, because the story of DFO is interesting. It's got a pretty interesting world. The issue with its story is mostly just that they're constantly retconning things and rewriting the story, so I don't think it's the best story, but I do find it interesting what they've decided to do with it. I think the story is cool. Effectively, the story is a little... So, the start is very branched, I would say, because there are, I think about... Oh gosh, there are over 10 different classes, and each have a number of subclasses, between 2 and 4 subclasses. Most classes have 4 to 5 subclasses, actually. We'll take the technique damage up. And so each class has a different start to their journey, and it actually has this really cool semi-animated comic book style to their intro stories, which I quite love. That's been around since the very start of the game, and I've always thought it was really cool. But so every character has like a different origin point, but they all start at the same starting, like, generic forest town starting point. I forgot to use my shield after all that. Oops. Anyway, the so that's the so it starts in the generic forest town, but what you end up finding out is that the world you're on, which is called Arid, I believe, or the continent you're on is called Arid. It has this really cool what's called Middle Ocean, which is just the sky is basically an ocean, and above it is a whole nother continent that is separated, and the people of the higher continent don't know that Arid exists outside of legend, because, well, I mean, why would someone go diving through an ocean? But effectively, I'm not even doing a close to good representation of what this story is about, am I? What I'm trying to say is the story ultimately is about what are called apostles, who are effectively entities with incredible powers that have the ability to influence the world around them, and also have some remnant of a dead god. And effectively, what the story boils down to is one of the apostles is trying to get back to her homeworld, because most of the apostles were pulled from other worlds, and the world of DFO, if you will, is actually, I believe, a total of 6 or 7 worlds that all exist within this multiverse kind of area. And some of the story ends up being that you're traversing between these worlds and fighting entities from these worlds, but a lot of the apostles come from the other worlds and were forcibly taken to DFO's main world, where most of the game takes place, against their will. And yeah, they want to go home. They're not fans of isekai, as it turns out. Whoa, what the? That was weird. I can't dash nearly as fast as what just happened, and I'm not sure what just happened there because I couldn't control it. But I was sliding, I was grooving there. Alright, so I just need to make sure that I'm using my shield at all times to survive this. Whoop. Oh, I didn't actually get hit. Weird. Anyway, so what I'm trying to say is, I don't think I can do the world of DFO good justice, but let's suffice it to say that I find it inherently interesting and a fun world to play in. I think, particularly with the most recent patch, we're in an entirely new area called Sion, and it is beautiful. It has this kind of very bright, vibrant cloud aesthetic, and it looks beautiful. And it gets less beautiful after you do certain story beats, or at least some of the level. Oh, it happened again. I don't know why I'm just suddenly like dashing into infinity, but I'm not a fan of it. I like being able to control my character, as it turns out. But I don't know. The world is very interesting to me. I'm gonna take this because its passive decreases the cooldown of technique skills. Oh, we're doing the thing where I can't pick up the item. All right, let's carry this all the way over here. And now that it's out of the way, we can pick this up, right? There we go. And we're gonna keep stacking HP. I think I need a little bit more survivability for now. And I do have to go for the HP recovery here. Anyway, so effectively the story starts. It's kind of that typical JRPG vibe almost, where you start off as a meager adventurer in a forest land, and then you end up fighting god after god, pretty much. And they're not exactly gods, but sometimes it feels like they are. And the raids are a lot of fun. You get to team up with up to, like, they've been trying to keep the raid parties a little bit smaller lately, but the largest raids we ever had were like 20 people raids. Now I think they keep them closer to 16 or even 8. But the raids were a heck ton of fun. And the cool thing about this game is a lot of the content is soloable, and I tend to play solo in MMOs when possible, just because I don't really have a group of people I play with anymore. It's really, if I'm playing an MMO, it is because I was personally interested in it. Kiwi sometimes joins me on MMOs, but they're not really her cup of tea, so it is fun to share a game now and again, though. So I appreciate it when she does join me, and we still play some RuneScape, we still play some DFO together every now and again. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is, what else can I say? I mean, when you're playing an MMO, sometimes the story is the most important part, but for DFO, it's definitely the degree of customization you have for how you want to play. Because the way DFO works is, like I mentioned, there are a lot of classes and a lot of subclasses, and effectively there are over, I think, there's easily over 60 unique playstyles in this game. And even gender variants have different playstyle a lot of the time. Like, the only classes I could argue play very similar to each other are the male and female variants of the Gunner class. But even then, as you get their levels up, they really start to branch out in their playstyle. For example, a lot of the female gunners tend to be more mobile or multi-hit focused, whereas the male gunners are... No, that's not necessarily correct, but the female gunners always feel a bit more mobile and have better range, whereas the male gunners have slightly more damage but are slower, and that makes them riskier to play because it's harder to dodge with them. All of that's trivialized by late game when you start stacking certain stats. The damage fallout, the damage difference honestly isn't nearly as bad as it used to be. It used to be pretty notable. But then there was a while where the female gunners actually did a lot more damage than the males. But they're all very unique. For example, the mechanic class. The male mechanic, what he does is he spawns... They both have access to roughly the same skills, but the way they work overall because of their passives is very different. The male mechanic spawns these little robots that'll chase after enemies, or he can manually detonate them and tell them to explode in a certain location. And a lot of his damage comes from spawning in a heck ton of robots and then exploding them all at once. The female gunner, on the other hand, goes into what are called the G series, which are a bunch of robots that follow behind her or in front of her and have special effects. And again, the male mechanic can use them, but his ones, because he doesn't have the passives that the female gunner variant has, he can't use them for an extended duration. They they have a uptime and then they despawn, and he has to reactivate them after cooldowns. The female gunner can basically keep them up 100% of the time, and she gets a couple extra transformations. So basically what she has is a turret that follows behind her, and then a set of orbs that if she runs into things deal damage, or discs that running into enemies will deal damage. And they can also shoot a mid-range projectile that does a heck ton of damage. And then there's a third one where it flies over an enemy's head and then does damage as lasers. And then there's one where the discs then start spinning around her. So there's a lot of variance in her playstyle, and she functions as kind of this mix between mid-range and long-range attacker, whereas the male mechanic is whatever he wants to be, closer or far away. He's spawning in all of these robots and then telling them to explode in a certain location. So he has some of the longest range in the game, frankly, because he can just detonate from wherever he wants. A shame I haven't gotten any AoE type artifacts. I could really use one for this build. Oh well. You start getting AoE after you upgrade them anyway, so I guess it doesn't matter terribly. But my survivability has certainly gone up since I've gotten the shield, which is not a surprise. The shield is too broken. Actually, reading its description, I noticed this. If you look at the shield, it's supposed to cost 5 bars of energy, I think, but it only costs 2. So that's why it's so busted. It's just, you can use it. It has virtually no cooldown, and it costs 1 auto attacks or 1 basic attack's worth of energy to cast. So it is just it is actually broken. It's not functioning as intended. You can use it way too free. Anyway, so the DFO entices you to make a lot of ults. So if you're an ultaholic, this is a dangerous game for you, but a very satisfying and fun one. And I am definitely an ultaholic. It does suffer from the Korean MMO system of fatigue points, which are, you can only run a certain number of dungeons before you have to wait for the daily reset. And the localization here says it's to... Give me 1 second, I just want to decide what I want to use here. I think... Let's do this for the attack speed buff. The devs say it's to kind of protect the economy, but I don't really believe that, considering you can effectively run as many characters as you want. You just can't run the same character as much as you want. Oh, free. Oh, hey. So I have I got a 5% passive to... Well, I messed up. I thought it was the entire shop. Oh, well. Unfortunate, but now I know for next time. Alright, what engraving stone do we get? But I have a passive now that makes it so I have a small chance to... get a free shop item, and we just rolled that number, I guess. Cool to know. It's only like 5 or 10%, but I guess that's pretty substantial in the long run. Alright, here comes the real metric of can we do this. Alright. I'm going to start by just trying to stack up the burning passive, and he's going to use his projectiles. I'll do this. Alright, I've gotten better at dodging this. It's actually really easy if you just back off, so as long as I play safe, I can dodge that pretty reliably. And I can use my artifacts to kill his other stuff. His tentacles. Whoops. Got hit twice there, but it's so easy to just regenerate energy here. And Chain Lightning kills the tentacles as well, so it's really not that scary anymore. Like, this boss has been trivialized by experience and practice. We're just gonna go and do as much damage as I can. Yeah, this is objectively, I think, maybe not in terms of DPS, I still think Mirage Blade is hands down the strongest. But the amount of DPS you can pull off with this build is not to be looked down upon if you get lucky options. And you can see, like, I have gotten terrible rolls in the Blessing Rooms, and yet I'm still handling this boss with, this run feels like it can make it. It feels like we can get this ending. Or this maximum heat completion. We will find out soon enough, though. I looked at the achievements, and it doesn't look like it's an achievement to complete this at max heat, which I respect. I feel like that's very much a completionist sort of thing, so if it's not for you, I would hate to feel forced into doing it. There is an achievement that's like, break the bronze statue in the hall, and I have no idea where that is, what that is, or how to do it. And it's only been completed by about 1/5 of the population, so it may not be as obvious as I would hope it to be. Like, I assumed the hall was where the game starts, but I can't find anything there that has a bronze statue. Like, I've gotten so used to the dodging patterns on this boss that I can just weave in attacks now. Oops, I got hit. I got greedy and used all of my artifacts at once, so I had no energy to recast my shield. That's why I got hit there, really. But there we go. That's the Hydra. In 3, 2, 1. He did a little jump there. Cute. Alright, I think we've probably got enough HP at this point, so let's go. Do we want to? I think I'll do attack speed. I definitely seem to be needing attack speed. So, yeah, so TFO is the MMO that I have played the most, second only to RuneScape, I would say, at this point. You know what, since we're here, why don't we go ahead and upgrade a bead? It's not like I'm ever using these resources for anything else, so let's see. What would be useful? I think, let's go for the technique damage. Alright. May as well enjoy that. And what do we get here? Max health 5%, 1% damage, or attack speed +2. I think we're going to go for the HP. That passive is really strong if we can get it a couple fire blessings, which we'll see. At the very least, it looks like I'll be able to upgrade that artifact with this plate bead room. Whoop, hello. But I have spent a pretty substantial amount of time playing DFO. For better or for worse. We actually played it a fair bit together in grad school, Kiwi and I have a very fond memory of her getting her first character to max level and starting to run the dungeon you run to get the best gear. And she very quickly got a best in slot weapon, and like she still has that weapon on her account. Like it's no longer even remotely relevant because of power creep, but she still holds on to it. And actually she made it in, so like most Eastern MMOs, the end game is cosmetic on top of damage dealing. And she was able to turn that weapon into a permanent cosmetic, so she can always she can always be holding it. It just feels kind of special, you know. Let's see, increase max health by 8, basic attacks restore HP. I think with how many... Yeah, we're doing so many basic attacks, we may as well take that one, because in the past it's been very strong. Do I want to go for a blessing? Because they just are not paying out. I'm going to try for it and hope I get something useful. I'm going to set my expectations very low, because the only thing this game wants me to do is change out my auto attack. So I believe the fully upgraded passive or active that I have on Divine Teleportation, which is my my B button skill, the one on the right, it increases my attack speed and movement speed pretty substantially, and then makes my damage scale with movement speed, which I have a lot of movement speed with this build, and attack speed, so it's pretty strong. It makes my damage go up pretty substantially. Hey, I can actually take a passive, hooray. And let's go for the engraving. I feel like most of my damage is from the auto attacks at this point. So what have we got? Immortal. Ooh, that sounds really good. Yeah, we're gonna go for this. So it basically just makes my damage increase every time I use a technique. Sounds very strong. Now, because of the translation, I'm not sure whether that is the damage of my basic attack or the damage of my active skill. So if I had the frame of mind to pay attention to those numbers, I would find out. Unfortunately, I am focusing on not getting hit, which is surprisingly easy when you're using projectiles. Let's see. I think it's my skill. Either way, it doesn't terribly matter. More damage is more damage, no matter where it ends up. I suppose is how I'll look at it for now. And boom. What's our new technique? Upon hitting an enemy, a chance to reset its cooldown. OP. And the Thunder Blessing, heck yeah. That guarantees that I will get something other than my auto attack, or my basic attack. So anyway, what can I ramble about now? So, do I want to say more about DFO? I would say, well, it's an MMO, and there's definitely some degree of pay-to-win aspect to it. They call it CAT, Creature, Avatar, and Title. They're all items that are generally bought with from packages with real-life money, and there's some real hardcore gambling bullshit that they do for how you unlock those sometimes. Like, it does not feel good to watch people burn either a heck ton of real-life money or a heck ton of in-game currency and then still end up without anything. So I will say there is a degree... Their microtransaction practices have left me feeling a little disappointed in a game I love, is all I'll say. Actually, more than a little sometimes. Sometimes it's just egregious and, frankly, to me, unacceptable, but there are people who accept that, and I know there's a very different mentality between Eastern and Western culture in terms of microtransactions. In the Eastern cultures, it really seems like it's very much work hard to earn hard to play hard sort of thing. Spend your money, and honestly, you spend your money as you will. For me, it's less so just how expensive microtransactions can add up to being, and more the psychological practices that are used to make them an addicting, enticing offer. Like, microtransactions very clearly employ psychological... what's the word? Tactics. It employs psychology. Like, I'm not this is not my area of expertise. I can only superficially touch on what it is without like sitting down and properly looking at the numbers and discussing real world examples. But there are so many real world examples. I don't need to really be the one to hold that discussion here on an unscripted video in the middle of a boss fight. It's if you take the time to look, there's a lot of, actually I think there are a fair few number of papers on just the psychology of microtransactions at this point. And I mean, there are business meetings for like CEOs of game companies that have been on record about them talking about how do you entice people to play your game more, how do you entice people to buy from your game more. And sometimes it's as simple as just having a pop-up that mentions the in-game store, because if it's there, people are going to look at it, and the chances that someone buys something from the in-game store after looking at that sort of screen increases. People aren't going to buy from the shop if they don't look at the shop, but now you've made it so that they have a very sudden possibility to do so, or you've made it very easy to do so. But again, I think in a previous episode I was starting to ramble a little bit about Blizzard, and it's sad. I don't know if it's because Blizzard got bought by Activision, which was notoriously kind of a morally bankrupt company, or if Blizzard was heading that route on its own regardless, but Blizzard is in such a bad spot. Like, BlizzCon got canceled this year, and last year it didn't even sell out. Like, people are have lost faith in Blizzard, and even if you're a huge fan of them and their games, and certainly you have reason to be, especially with their earlier works, but with where Blizzard has gone and where it has come from, there is no way you can argue, at least for large-scale public opinion is where large-scale public opinion is concerned, there's no way you can argue that Blizzard hasn't fallen off pretty substantially, and it's entirely because of bad marketing decisions. My only interest in Overwatch 2 was its PvE, and I didn't buy the game until it came out, and I'm glad I didn't, because I would have bought a lie. I would have bought a false promise if I had tried to buy Overwatch 2. I did buy Overwatch 1, and it was fun for a while, but now I can't even play it because the servers are dead, because I needed to switch over to Overwatch 2. At least that's my assumption. I've never even tried, so if they did make it available for those who still have Overwatch 1, fine, but something tells me they didn't, and I have no interest in finding out. And I learned very quickly, honestly, with DFO. So DFO's history, it's a Nexon run game originally, and Nexon NA is definitely one of those companies that has earned a notorious degree of scorn for being in a similar camp to Blizzard as far as kind of a degree of moral bankruptcy for obsession with microtransactions. And they ruined DFO, and for a while. The update frequency was abysmal, and all the updates we were getting were cosmetic in nature. And the thing, like, they didn't really have an excuse. The game exists in Korea and is out. But basically what they let happen was they let the game die, pretty much. They stopped updating frequently. They let bots run rampant, and really all they cared about was microtransactions for a bit. And the game actually died and closed. The game went down. But then, because of how popular it is in the East, the parent company, Neepal, which I think is still Nexon, it's just maybe a subset of Nexon, but like Nexon Korea, we're like, okay, let's try this again and do it right and not have Nexon NA be in charge of it. And the game is still thriving, I would say. It's got a small niche community. Again, it's not nearly as popular in the West as it is in the East, but it is still going strong as far as I can tell. We're getting updates pretty much every 2 weeks. Well, okay, we're getting events every 2 weeks. We're getting major updates on a less frequent basis than that. It's more like every quarter, I would say. But we're still getting major updates fairly frequently. And far more frequently than we were getting with the when Nexon NA was in charge. And some of the events have been phenomenal. It feels rewarding to play it. Yeah, and I remember like there's a meme in the community. Basically, the meme was if you um, if there was an error, a technical issue, something went down, servers were down. Oh my goodness, I forgot their patches were like forever. They took forever to patch. Sometimes we would lose the access to the game for over 24 hours because something went wrong with the patching. Anyway, but their compensation for those sorts of things were an entirely useless item called an Ice Tiger capsule, which would spawn an enemy called an Ice Tiger, which is cool and all. It spawns an ally that you think would help you, but it actually made things far worse. So one, they would mess up enemy AI and pathing, so they would want to target the tiger, which sometimes made dodging gimmicks more, dodging like enemy patterns more difficult. But the real awful thing about the Ice Tigers is one, they did virtually no damage, and their main attacks were, I think, a swipe, which did a little bit of like non-damage, and then a grab. And the way grabs work in DFO are kind of special, and especially earlier in the game, they were kind of weird in how they worked. And what the Ice Tiger's grab did was it would latch onto the enemy, and you'd think, okay, cool, it immobilizes the enemy, it does damage. Why wouldn't you want that? Well, it made the enemy invulnerable if it was grabbed. That's why. So you would have to wait for the Ice Tiger to finish grabbing things before you could attack it, and the cooldown on the grab was about as long as the duration of the grab, so it wasn't a 100% made the enemy entirely invulnerable, but for grabbable enemies, it would just massively extend the time it takes to kill them. It was awful. It was so awful, and so it became kind of a meme in the community, like, we are sorry for your inconvenience here, have this Ice Tiger capsule. And that was not a good look, but like, oh my goodness, I think when the game closed, I must have had like over 100 Ice Tiger capsules because everything was just going wrong in that game at the time, sadly. But that's in the past. It's still a game I genuinely love playing. It's a game that I have a lot of history with, and I really enjoy how customizable and varied the character classes are. Like I was saying before, the classes are so diverse. You have multi-hits, you have summoners, you have projectiles, you have melee range, you have classes that have kind of a rhythm game to them almost. Like it really does say, like, there's a degree of similarity between classes no matter what you do because of the nature of the game's core engine, but at its core, beyond a very superficial similarity, everything feels unique. Every character has their own identity, and what's really cool is some of the character subclasses have unique dialogue based on the lore of the subclass when you're passing through quests. For example, one of the apostles, Hildur, is the cause of the male mage's backstory, and when you interact with Hildur, and this boss that is effectively the origin of the male mage's power, they have custom dialogue that no other subclass has. It's really, I really like that. And so, for example, I don't know, but I think that's all I need to really say. I really respect that because it's hard enough localizing dialogue in different countries, or for different countries' languages, but then on top of that, they're doing that. I think that's really cool. I think I'm just trying to keep my energy topped off because I'm getting hit a lot by this boss. I'll use my mirror to get some damage since I seem to be well topped off now. Oh, darn it, I didn't think he was going to spear again. Anyway, let's talk about what other Korean MMOs I played. Also from the Nexon days was Vindictus. I never played Mabinogi. I believe Vindictus was also known as Mabinogi Heroes, maybe? I could be mistaken about that, but I think it might have. I think Vindictus was localized to English as Vindictus, but I think in Korea it had Mabinogi in the name. I've never played Mabinogi, so I really don't know much about it at all. But okay, this boss is hard when I'm on the higher difficulty and he has all the attack speed. I may have to die down the dialogue to focus on surviving here. Oh, I got hit, darn it. Alright. Cue the focusing Jeff sounds, which are generally a lack of sounds, honestly. I'm just trying to generate as much energy as I can. Oh, he got me. Like, as long as I keep my shield up, I'm good, but I'm honestly burning through it so fast. These wheels are very obnoxious. Maybe what I should do is I'll use my spinning orb passives to try and get some hits. There's some good damage. Alright. I think I've gotten... Oh, here we go. Whee! Oop. I really like this attack. It's simple, but it's... it works, I guess. I don't know what to say. Whee! I didn't want to take that hit. Alright, got this. You know what? I should try and use my, my actually upgraded artifact, which I haven't done at all in this fight for some reason. Alright, and whoop. Focus on dodging. Whoop. Ooh. Okay, I got hit there, but we're fine. Get some good hit there. It does... My technique does so much damage. Alright, I'm using this. Hopefully it'll give me enough damage to burst him down. And there we go. Leave me alone. Okay. So Vindictus, it's been a very, very long time since I played Vindictus, so mind you, I don't terribly remember a lot of it. Maybe I should have taken the HP there. I'm pretty tanky, but I'm getting hit down pretty fast, and I have no idea what our Longshan is going to be like. I've never made it this far before. Let's see, can I upgrade anything? I can upgrade another bead. Why don't I... Oops, well, I didn't mean to upgrade that one. I wanted the chance of HP on auto attack, but... Oh well, we're fine, we're fine. I think I forgot to talk to Red Boy before going into the boss fight, so I definitely missed a passive. Oops. Oh well. So, where was I? So Vindictus is a game I dropped after a while, but I played a lot of it back in the day. I was like, I was in that awkward place of, well, DFO is dying, and I don't know what I want to do, so let's play Vindictus, because that was the other hot title on Nexon's catalog, aside from Mabinogi, and I think there was one more, but I can't remember the name. Dragon Nest, that's what it was. It was Dragon Nest. If anyone remembers that game. I played that for like maybe 20 levels and just didn't feel it, so I was told it was the closest thing to the feel of DFO that I was looking for, and it didn't resonate enough with me for me to want it. I'm getting a lot of resurrection passives. Jeez, I think that's the 4th one. Kiwi of the Present has joined us. Alright, do I want a Wind Blessing, or I think I'm going to go for the Divine V Plate and try to upgrade this weapon. Alright, I'll clear this room and then I'll give you your chair back, but for now it's mine. Alright, so Vindictus was a real-time action RPG, 3D, but unlike the usual standard fare of MMO, the one where, you know, it's kind of, you have a hotbar with cooldowns, well, there was still that sort of thing, but most of your attacks were based on your auto attacks, and then there, like, each character had certain passives. There was a transformation that you could choose to either go, I think, Paladin form or Dark Knight form. And I remember at the time, I think Dark Knight was objectively better in terms of damage output, but Paladin made you a lot tankier and better at surviving. And it was a lot of fun. The story was interesting, although I don't terribly remember it. I remember grinding out a lot of this town that was like ravaged by like not zombies, but like ghouls and vampires. My favorite character that I played was I think it was the default swordsman. I played a lot because he had an ability that you would just spin, and as long as you had stamina to spin, because it was running on a stamina system similar to Dark Souls, but your stamina bar was pretty huge in that game. So it was you could hold that attack for a very long time, but you would just spin in place and DPS the heck out of anything nearby. It was a very fun. It was kind of brainless, honestly, but it was fun. It was fun. Alright, I'm going to pause here for a second so Kiwi can have her chair back. Forgive me if the audio changes for the rest of the video. It's her fault. Alright, we're resuming. Kiwi wanted her chair back, although she's staying on the couch, so she didn't actually need her chair. So, apologies again if the audio quality has changed a little bit. That's often what happens, especially when I've noticed that's a fairly common thing that happens whenever I change sitting positions or accidentally punch the mic or splice two videos together. Ideally, I would try and keep consistent audio to the best of my ability. It's just positioning this mic is challenging because, again, I mentioned it in a previous episode. I do not have a consistent setup for it yet, and I think that will change if I invest a little time and effort into it, but I don't think I'm ready to do that just yet. Alright, activation turns spirit orbs into ranged attack instead of circling around. Okay. Actually, that's really good. This is another passive that like scales really well because suddenly you're just gonna start hearing a bunch of laser sounds going off, and enemies are gonna die very quickly when that happens. It's a single target damage sort of thing instead of the AOE that it was previously, but it actually works very well. Anyway, so I was talking about Vindictus. So I know I remember playing I think it was called Lan was the name of the class. So all of the classes just had names. I think the other classes I played were. Was it Herc? I don't think it was Herc. I forget what it was, but it was the guy who wielded a totem or what were they, Vestus's? Basically, he wielded a giant stick and just smacked people with a log, or he would punch things. And I mostly played him in the totem form or the pillar form because the way he worked was he had, if you've ever played Bloodborne, you'd have a frame of reference for this works, but if you get hit and then you deal damage to enemies after getting hit, you would regenerate some amount of the HP you lost. Not all of it, but there was that. And he also had a ridiculous amount of super armor. Like, this dude was meant to be tanky, and his damage output was pretty darn solid as well. Easily outcompeted a lot of the other classes at the time. I think Lan still had the best damage as long as you could maintain his spinny move because it just attacked so fast. But he felt very strong. And for me, he was very easy to play because, I mean, you turn your brain off, you super armor through all the bosses. I do remember, oh gosh, I almost died there. Let's not throw the run this close into the final fight, or into the final area. Please, Jeff? Oh, man. It's a good thing I have a lot of resurrection passives. I'll need those. I mean, I honestly, I feel like the third boss is the hardest of the 4 bosses. Erlang Shen really hasn't been that challenging at all. It is still funny to watch him go flying off into the horizon when he dies. He's the only... It's weird that he is the only enemy that does that. I wonder if that's not intended. Anyway, alright, what do we get? What do we get? Heavenly Thunder if I get hit. Cool. An ability that I don't want to use. Oh gosh, we still have half the floor to go. I think I'm gonna go for the draw. Sometimes the draws can pay off, and maybe I'll get some HP from it. There's a chance. Alright, let's see. Wheel of Morality, you know the lyrics. Blah, blah, blah. Turn, turn, turn. And we get completely useless on this run. Cool. Alright. Feeling great. Go ahead and cast my shield and run in. Alright, we're against a boss, so I've got to be mindful of that. This boss, even with attack speed up, seems surprisingly easy to manage. Most of it's mostly a melee attacker, and it's, with the shield especially, it just can't hit me. Yeah, I'm basically just playing like League of Legends where I'm what is it, A-casting or A-walking? I'm shooting and then moving. And yeah, it's a dodge, but this is pretty much how Hades plays too, so I'm very familiar with this gameplay style. Except I stood still for a moment to think about what I was going to do there. Yeah, that's the one downside to the artifacts for me, is that because I have to like change the... I can't dodge and activate an artifact at the same time because they share a button. But that boss was easy. This boss is really easy. Alright. Any reason I would want to change out any of these? No, there is none. So let's go ahead and take that back, and we get 8% crit rate. Sure, let's do that. So now what's my crit rate at now? I am at 31% crit. That's pretty solid, especially since it's a 1 in 3 chance to crit, and I don't know if the damage is calculated separately or together for the individual beads of this attack, but it feels like they're probably calculated. Oh, I did that weird thing where I just dash a whole bunch in a row. Not a fan of that. Hope that doesn't get me killed. Foreshadowing? I hope not. I do hope when I upgrade the mirror that it becomes an AoE, because I could really use like one more strong AoE. But my auto attack, my basic attacks are doing so much damage now, and they're pretty reliably critting. Yeah, I just have to remember to use my godly, or what is it, divine teleportation, because it ups my attack speed for a brief moment, but it also gives me a damage buff, and I get the energy back so fast. I can't tell when the buff wears off, which is the real downside to this ability. So, yeah, I very distinctly remember that one of the hardest bosses in the early game of Vindictus was a giant polar bear. I remember spending so much time fighting that polar bear. It was really tough. But, I mean, the nature of the game is it was a predictable... Everything had predictable move sets. It's just you had to have the reaction time to deal with them. And in parties, of course, reaction time and lag don't always mesh well, unfortunately. Just gonna beam these guys down. Man, honestly, one of the strongest passives for this weapon is simply the one that makes it so when you... What is it? When you use your basic attack, you're not limited by the orbs surrounding you. That is honestly one of the worst parts about this weapon until you get that passive, because you just don't attack if you have the attack speed. Okay, let's see what we get from this engraving stone. Reduce prices or energy. None of these sound really good, but I guess we'll take the reduced prices because that'll let me afford a technique manual before the boss and possibly the HP as well. Then we'll go for the Nua's Blessing, although maybe I should have gone for the Spirit Essence. I guess it doesn't matter. We'll see. No matter what, I need to buy the HP before the next round. I spent that whole time without a shield up. Alright, so let's see what this upgraded sword does. It does not inspire confidence, is what it does. I didn't even see it. I do wish that the upgraded artifacts, or even the base artifacts, had more of a sound design to them. It's kind of disappointing that they don't. I mean, I've had to, the last couple episodes, I realized I need to turn down the game audio even further because, my goodness, when you're just hitting everything and all your passes are popping off, the sound effects are so loud. But I think we're okay. But this feels also reminiscent of Diablo. I never played Diablo 1 or 2, but I played Diablo 3. And I mean, I played a Demon Hunter, and this is basically what I did. I just ran around and kited them. But, I mean, none of these enemies are even trying to hit me for the most part. They're just running around trying to do something, but I'm not quite sure what that something is, honestly. But we haven't had much luck in terms of getting damaging passives, but we're surviving off of base damage, honestly. And we've got enough technique manuals to say we got something, I suppose. Like, our damage isn't nothing, but it is, compared to previous builds, this is definitely a lackluster, damage output, if you will. I really dislike these enemies with the shields. There's just... The only way to get them to drop their shield is to get into melee range of them. And I think you can understand why there's a problem with that if you're running a ranged-based build. Oh well, we're fine. The other class that I played for a bit in what is it? Vindictus was, I think it may have been Eve. I forget what her name was, but she was the scythe wielding class, or I think she was the mage originally, and then every class every character in Vindictus had 2 weapons after some period of time. They started with 1, but they eventually designed a second one, so it's the same character model, sound effect, voice actors, that sort of stuff. But they could use a different weapon that vastly changed up their playstyle. Like I mentioned, the characters I mained were primarily, or the character I mained used either a totem / log or a set of gauntlets that he would punch things with. Basically just fists. And so those were his 2 playstyles. Eve, if that was her name, started off with magic and then got a scythe, and the scythe was so much fun to play. It was such a cool playstyle. I mean, I love combat. If you've ever seen Soul Eater, you know where I'm going to go with this, but I really loved watching Maka's animated fights, and maybe that's part of the reason why I'm pretty fond of that aesthetic of scythe-based combat. But like, I try to picture it in my head how to fight with a scythe, and I'm just like, this seems so unwieldy, and like, why would you choose this over just a sword? But I mean, it's cool. It just looks really cool to fight with a scythe. That's all it boils down to, I think. It's an aesthetic, and it's an aesthetic I respect, or at least I enjoy watching. And I remember there was a really cool ability that Eve had where, like, I think it gave her invulnerability, but whenever she attacked things, she would effectively attach strings to them or spider webs or something, and then once she attached enough, she on a certain cooldown, she could then pull the strings and kind of like they would slice because they were like really strong. So like picture wrapping Play-Doh with dental floss and then constricting the dental floss around it, that sort of thing. But obviously not dental floss. That would be weird if an MMO character fought with dental floss. Although I wouldn't put it past someone to have weirder ideas than that. But anyway, I remember like she would like it was connected to her scythe and she would just pull the string and like cut people in half with it pretty much. I mean, I don't the game didn't have that sort of animation where things would get gored, if you will. There was just a ton of blood splash, and that's usually how these games go, unfortunately. But I honestly I'm fine with that personally. I'm not a fan of gore. For a long time I was a kid who was afraid of gore as a whole. But I don't know. I digress. Let's see. I think we'll go with the fire meteors. It's whatever. We're almost up to Erlong Shen, and I should have enough money to be able to afford the HP as well as the whatever technique or blessing we get here. Let's see. Oh, cool, a technique manual. Alright. Alright, Red Boy, let's get what you have to offer first. Each wind element, Ice Spike, or... Oh yeah, we're gonna go Ice Spike on Chain Lightning Bounce. That sounds great. And then crit rate until artifact, Ice Element, Lightning Element. I guess we'll take the Lightning Element up because I'm going to use my artifact almost immediately upon entering the room, or immediately upon entering the room. Okay, 2 Spirit Orbs simultaneously. Oh yeah, that just increased our damage pretty substantially. Awesome. And we can't afford anything else, so here we go. All right, maximum heat, final boss. Can we do it? I think we can. But it just goes to show you how this shield ability is currently in a broken state and needs to be fixed. It is too darn strong for its own good. Bye, Erlong Shen. Bye, Erlong Shen. Right, we'll go ahead and grab our shield, and then we're just gonna spam our balls on his face. Don't take that out of context, please. That's gross. Hi, Heavenly Shoulders. Bye, Heavenly Shoulders. Goodbye, Shoulders. Yeah, we do so much damage. Like, Erlong Shen never stood a chance. And that just always seems to be the nature. When I get to Erlong Shen, I've won the match. He never feels like a threat, which is kind of bad for a final boss. Like, in Hades was really hard. And, like, when you got to the higher difficulties, he got an extra phase. Like, oh, man, when I first discovered, oh, no, there's a third phase. Oh, that was rough. But here, this boss is not nearly he does not have the gravitas of Hades, even remotely. And it's a little disappointing, admittedly. I wish he was a scarier threat. He is not, and I don't know what to say to make him scarier, because they've already kind of designed him, but all of his attacks are very easily telegraphed, and it doesn't seem that... Whoa, okay. Uh-oh. I'm bugged. I can't attack. Uh-oh. This is bad. No, oh no. Kiwi, the game is bugged. I can't use my auto attack. Apparently when he activated the Divine Scroll, because I was trying to cast an artifact, I'm now locked into the artifact casting. Okay, there we go. All I had to do was try and cast another artifact. Oh, that was spooky. I legitimately couldn't press any buttons. I couldn't dodge and I couldn't attack. Okay, but we're good. We're good. All right. And because I had no energy, I couldn't use the artifacts either, so I guess I didn't try pressing the artifact button. But there we go. That was spooky. For a second, I thought that would have been really sad if the game bugged and that was how we were going to lose on the final fight. And I'd have to do this all over again. Which I wouldn't, honestly. I've had my fill of this game. I genuinely enjoyed it. But if you want to play Hades with less of the commitment that Hades requires to beat, this is the game for you. Bye, Erlong Shen! And there we go. We have officially beaten Lotus Lantern Rescue Mother on the highest difficulty. Honestly, a very fun game. I would recommend it to anyone who wants a Hades-like kind of game with, again, maybe a little bit less commitment to the story. But it was a good playthrough. It was a very fun experience, and I would probably play it again in the future if I didn't have Hades to play. But because I have Hades to play, that's where I'm headed next. So Kiwi, look forward to that. And with all that said, I hope you've enjoyed watching, and if you're awake, I hope this is helping you fall asleep. If you're asleep, I hope you are sleeping well. I love you, and I'll see you in the next one. Or maybe I'll see you in this again whenever they have an update worth touching. But until that time, it's time for Hades.